All right, yeah, so let's go through these slides quickly and then we'll start the demo. And let me just double check the volume. Okay, perfect. I thought I heard an echo out of that, so I want to be careful. Okay, yes, so thank you for being here tonight. It's Boston Healthcare Cloud and AI Community, sponsored by Real Activity, Microsoft. And so a little bit about our group. We started, gosh, a couple years ago. We used to do the last Wednesday of the month at the Burlington office, the Burlington Microsoft office. And then we decided recently, about 3 months ago, to move down here to the Cambridge office. Part of the reason is because we like to support students and new people to the industry. And we thought coming down here to Cambridge, you know, we could be closer to some of the students and whatnot. And so that's sort of how we started. And so it's a, you know, nonprofit group. We don't charge for any of our events. So we, as you know, we have we do a couple full day events too. I thought that might have been what you're talking about. So, and we'll have speakers come in literally from all over the world and put the content around healthcare, put together content around healthcare, and so that's sort of what we do. I mean, I think that's the gist of it. You know, we've had some growth. We've some groups have merged with us. AI for the rest of us. We have a group in Nigeria now. There's a group in Chicago. So these are different chapters, and that's why we're streaming. So a lot of people will catch this stream afterwards. And yeah, so that's the group. As you know, this week is Boston Tech Week, and so this is actually a Boston Tech Week event. And the name of the session is Own Your Own Runtime for Verified Agents. But that's just because I took the OpenClaw name off because I knew they were having the user group. Like otherwise the title would have been like something OpenClaw, but I just wanted to be a good team sport, and they were doing their big meetup. So anyway, but our focus will be, but it's not just OpenClaw. Like we're going to look at OpenClaw in a hosted, secure Azure environment. And then also look at how we can use evaluations at the agent level to make sure that that our agents are accurate, that they're not making mistakes. So that's the gist of our session today. And now I'll share my screen and get out of there. So here's the repo. So if you haven't found it already, if you Google Real Activity and Tula, it's very easy to find. It's also up on my LinkedIn. So a little bit about Tula, how this started. Tula, first of all, I named it after my mother. I lost her to cancer some time ago. And in my family, I just have a lot of hereditary factors that I'm concerned about, you know, and so I started collecting data. You know, I have the Withings cuff at home for blood pressure. I have my Garmin watch, and I have, you know, a PSO to get my oxygen, the Wi-Fi reader. And so I was starting to collect this data. I'd been doing that for a while, almost like a biohacking for fun, you know, on the side. And then, you know, of course, we've gotten this AI stuff 3 years ago, and a year ago when I started playing with my health data. And it was about a year ago when I started to play with it in AI. So the first step was, you know, I just literally did that. I put it into Claude. You know, we had an enterprise thing of Claude, so I felt comfortable doing that. And it was spectacular. It was amazing. And so then the next step is what I'm sure a lot of people are already doing is we, hold on one second here. So the next step was we did what a lot of people are probably already doing and figured out, which is you could just create an AI project and put all your healthcare data in it, right? And then it has the context of all your health. And so that took it to another level. You know, so I did that for 6 months, you know, and it was amazing. It was helping me guide me through. Here's a great story. I wanted to get calcium scoring for my heart, you know, because of my high blood pressure, and they saw my heart. So I called the doctor, and they're like, no, it's going to be at least 60 days, you know. I'm like, and I knew I was going to Malaysia in a couple of weeks, and I knew Malaysia had great healthcare, Kuala Lumpur. So I'm like, hey, I told it about the trip, and the thing basically went through and helped me navigate that whole thing, helped me who should I talk to at Prince Core, all the information, drafted the letter for me. It even told me, Paul, you should go get this lab first before you fly, because the first thing they're going to have you do is ask that lab, and you've only got 3 days in Kuala Lumpur. So you need to do that lab here in Boston before you go to Kuala Lumpur, right? So I was like, wow, that's pretty impressive, you know? But then there was still some missing pieces, right? Like all that was working, but I was copying and pasting data out of my Epic portal. That was the biggest thing. Like I was copying and pasting a bunch of stuff. And I get private labs at Quest now. A lot of people are doing private care, right? So I get, my doctor wants to give me labs once a year. Like I don't feel like that's good enough. I want to get them at least 2-3 times, right? Depending on how I'm feeling. So I've got private labs at Quest. You know, I'm talking to companies in New York City, they like Urza, they just started a subscription model for MRIs and chest x-rays now. You can literally buy a subscription and get 1 or 2 MRIs a year and a chest x-ray, right? And it's cheap too. They're getting down like $2,500, $500 for the chest x-ray. So anyway, I'm dabbling more in private care, because we all know the story about insurance, you know, and how that is, right? It just doesn't make any sense anymore for a lot of this stuff, right? And I mean, granted, I do want to acknowledge that the healthcare world we live in today is tilted with haves and have-nots, right? I do want to acknowledge that I'm in a position where, you know, where I can do that, right? But we should be clear that in terms of health equity, that's not everybody. And as a matter of fact, that's even more of a reason why this project was so important. Healthcare and OpenClaw, Tula, yeah, you're in the right spot. Healthcare, yeah. So that was the genesis. But the missing piece that came in was OpenClaw was huge. When OpenClaw came out 4 or 5 months ago, it basically filled in the missing pieces for me, because what I needed an agentic harness to sort of track all this stuff, you know. And then there was one other really important piece of work, and it was from a top researcher at Microsoft. His name's Josh Mandel, super great guy. I encourage you to check him out. But he actually he built something called Health Skills. And so what Health Skills allows you to do, as a matter of fact, I'm just going to show you. I'll show you. I'll do your demo right now. But basically what it will do is it will connect to my Epic portal, and it will pull my data from one or more portals. You can have multiple portals registered in it. And that's sort of what went viral over the past 10 days. I published this, and then I did a big article right before Memorial Day, and the whole healthcare community was just like, this is crazy, because you know how it is. These people have been working for years on TEFCA and all that infrastructure for letting people in. And I just basically bypassed all the gates, and I'm legally allowed to do it because of the Cures. I think it's called the Cures Act. Is it Cures or Cares? I forget which one was it?
21st Century Cures.
Thank you, Cures. Yeah. And so a lot of people don't realize it, but it opened up. It finally did something good for the patient.
Financial services are finally acknowledging you own your own data.
Yeah, and so now what people should start realizing soon is really the only value of the Clear and the TEFCA, in my opinion, is that's primarily there for billing. Like if we were to truly be open and candid about what that's there for, because they say your healthcare data, but like a large part of what they call healthcare data is your billing data, your coding data, right? And don't get me wrong, it's all important. You're running a practice, you want that stuff. But my assertion is that shouldn't be next to my health data, you know? So as a matter of fact, I made a post today that the one thing Tula will never track is billing data and codes, right? Because why would I want to confuse the AI? Like, I don't even want it to have that in its little brain. You know what I mean? I want this thing dialed in like a laser on one thing, and that's my health. Like, what's going on? And by the way, my health, not anybody else's health. You know, with Tula, the way it works is, well, let me go into the technical details now. And we'll keep drilling more. But one thing I do want to share just real quick before full demo is what the other thing that's really cool about this is Microsoft just released this. They haven't been publishing it a lot. I think they're going to do a big announcement at Build next week. But what this is, it's called Waza evaluations. And what these are, you know how with the LLM you can have evaluations that do evaluations of output? Well, what this does is it does evaluations at the agent level. Super, super cool. So you want to pay attention to this. I'm sure there'll be a huge announcement at Build next week, and then, you know, that'll be huge. So what we've done, though, is because we tripped over this early, so every one of our skills that we're building, we bake in Waza right from the beginning. Like, that's one thing we're fundamentally doing different from everybody else. And it just happened to be because of, you know, the work that we do at Microsoft. I saw I actually saw the Japan office publish it first, and X translated it for me, because I think they publish it in Asian. They'll probably do an announcement next week at Build, when they have their big developer conference. So I snagged that up and I started putting it right into my OpenClaw. Okay, so with that said, let's jump into really cool stuff now. This is amazing. I want to show you how to build enterprise apps doing this stuff. So the first thing is my development environment, my tool of choice is I still do a lot of my stuff in Cursor, because I got into this really early, 3 years ago. Cursor came out, maybe it was 2 years ago. So it was the first one. I just started using it, but now honestly, I think I do use Claude Code and Codex. So I've got them all three open here right now. But I always find myself going back to Cursor. Hey, how's it going? Hi. Especially for OpenClaw development, and the reason has been OpenClaw healthcare agents, verifiable agents. So what's nice about OpenClaw is there's an extension that will allow you. Actually, that's the wrong one. Hold on. That will allow you to connect to the actual OpenClaw running in the Azure VM. So this instance of OpenClaw is running in the Ubuntu box in Azure, self-hosted in Azure. I'm not going to show you the Azure screen. That's not what's important here, but there's a virtual server there and OpenClaw there. And it's really important because one of our premises for this is data sovereignty for the patient. One record, sort of think of imagine if you had a very powerful EHR and with AI, but it was only focused on one patient record. It sort of changes the dynamic a little bit, right? And especially with the laws now, right? Because if it's my data, then I should be able to use that. The law literally says that. Pick the tool of your choice, right? And do as you will. So this is sitting in Azure. And now what you're seeing here, this is actually the OpenClaw box. And that's why I love Cursor, because there's a little SSH connection extension, it's called, that will automatically connect to the Linux box. And then it's showing the inside of Tula. So you are literally looking at the inside of Tula right now. This is where Tula starts here. And this is our commercial product stuff down here for governance. Oh, here's Tula down here. Sorry, I saw it there too. But so here we got apps. So one of the things that really surprised people last week is I needed a dashboard. So I was like, well, why wouldn't I just build my own Epic My Chart, So I literally, I did. I built this amazing, I'll show it to you in a minute, it's called My Aria. And so we deploy those apps into the apps folder. We've already got a dashboard in there, a configuration dashboard, a patient dashboard, and the skill we just released yesterday that I'll share with you today, we even have it, I just lost my train of thought. It's called Prep for My Visit. And it will walk you through the whole process of preparing for your healthcare visit. Even recommending labs you might want to get before you go see your doctor, like that type of stuff. And I'm going to go through that skill. And by the way, it's already in the repo. It's free. It's open source. You can go get it tonight. And what's really cool about this one is this is the first one where we gave instructions for how to get the skill working in Claude, how to get it working in Copilot, and then obviously it'll work in OpenClaw. That's our environment, because these skills can be transferred, right? And again, this is open source, so I don't care if somebody wants to take this and just put it in Claude as a skill. I'm totally okay with that. So here's the cool part, though. This, see if you can find it here. It's a skill. Here, let me find it because this is worth doing. So let's see. So we go down to skills. And this one is the magic here. So this is called, it's the health record skill. And essentially what this will do is it starts up a web app. I'm going to demo it live in just a minute. And then it will allow me to select my, actually, you don't need, all you have to do is tell it your hospital name. And what it will do is it will connect to the Epic portal. It will do an OAuth handshake, and then it will pull your patient records. Now, this is very important. The AI never initiates that exchange. It's very important for legal reasons. So it's a web app, and the web app, I'm the patient, and I'm saying, go get my data. So I've initiated it, It goes and it gets the data. The data never touches the server. It's encrypted and never touches that middle tier server. And it brings it over, and then it says, do you want to download this or do you want to send it to your AI? And at that point, HIPAA's out the door because the hospital just transported it to me. Now it's mine. There's no more HIPAA obligation. I don't care who you are. You do not own this data anymore. I do. And then it's over, game over. Now I got my healthcare data and I go on. Because what you're going to find out is, honestly, the data in your EHR is not even the important stuff anymore. I mean, we go to a doctor once a year, right? And that stuff just sits there. Meantime, I'm going to get labs. I've got my Withings thing, multiple times a month. I've got this every single day. Every Thursday, I'm weighing myself. That gives me 20 data points from my Garmin watch, right? Like that. I mean, we know this world. We talk about it all the time. So anyway, yeah.
That's different for TEFCA though, isn't it?
Meaning?
If you use TEFCA to retrieve the health data, you give it to the patient, TEFCA says, I don't care whether you're a HIPAA-covered entity or not.
Yeah.
You're going to behave like you are a HIPAA-covered entity.
Yeah.
So your approach is true if you go to, on behalf of the patient, to their EHR.
Exactly. Yeah.
If you go through TEFCA, you're still, okay.
But some people think that's might be a catalyst for fundamental change for patient agency, right?
Yes.
If we can find a way to
return
that agency.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I agree. Yeah, I think so.
Awesome.
And also just by all the attention it's got. Like I've had multiple investors contacting me. Like it started like when it really started going viral was like Thursday last week. And so my whole Memorial Day was nonstop, like LinkedIn. Like by Sunday night, Memorial Day, I was recording a demo in my office, to go up on YouTube. And then anyway, it's just been a little bit of a blur. But anyway, so yeah, this cool stuff. So now that I showed you that though, now let's actually play with, let's actually see the thing, right? So Tula, there's multiple interfaces. One of the cool things we did early on is we set up an email router. And let me just minimize this stuff a little bit here. I don't know what's on my desktop, so I want to be careful here when I'm streaming. I don't think it's nothing private. Okay, so Tula, there's multiple entry points. So as I already told you, there's this My Aria dashboard, which I'll show you. That's basically Epic My Chart, but 10x better. Like that's the one I included. And then you talk to Tula through Telegram. We've also are right now in the process of doing an iPhone app and Android app for more of the more on the commercial side, if you will. But for right now, it's OpenClaw, so you can pick your channel. You can pick Discord, Telegram, whatever it is with open source version. And this is real and live. There's no hidden mirrors or anything like that here. What you're looking at is you're actually looking at the Tula instance I just showed you in Azure. And Tula has a lot of my healthcare data. And so I'll just show you, just for fun, I'll show you. So this afternoon, this is how I prepped for this demo. So you see at 2:35, I'm like, hey, are you awake? Wide awake, Paul, what's on your mind? And I was like, okay, I'm about to demo you at the Microsoft office. What's a great skill to test? Oh, by the way. All right, hold on this one. So it said, demo time. And it said, honestly, health records is a showstopper. That's what I just told you about. That'll go to the Epic portal and whatnot. And it's like, smart on fire, real data value, cross skill routing, definitely show that one. And then it even gives me the script for the demo. It's like, here you go. This demo that lands well. Tula, pull my medical records. I'm actually going to follow it. I'm going to do this demo. So she's like, okay, Tula, pull my medical records. Talk to me about my blood pressure. Draft a message to Dr. Driscoll about it. So, okay, I'll say, okay. So I'll say, okay, get my medical records. Boop. And so this is using a skill. So again, skills, they're cross-platform in theory, meaning you can see she just woke up. She's typing up in the left-hand corner. She's like, okay, let me do a fresh session for you. And you can watch the thing in a little bit. Boom, boom, boom. On it, connect as many. Oh, here we go. So here's the magic. So here we go. The trick. Boom. Open. Now we're in web app land. This is Phone Connect. So this is really running on my mobile phone, what you're seeing right now. I'm just windowed into my phone. That's what this screen is, this mobile phone right here. And so, so share, now see, I've already got 2 hospitals connected here. You see, I got Beverly Hospital and Mass General, both already connected. I have records in both. I have them in Dartmouth. You know the story. I actually probably got them all around Boston. You know, if you go back far enough, you know. So, so anyway, and then what you can do is, you know, obviously connect to a new provider. There's a redaction option, and then you see this is where I can send those 2 records to the AI. And at any time, I can go ahead and just, you know, do a refresh here. You see, it's actually refreshing my data now. See, that's live. That's pulling Fire. Those are all Fire resources. That's coming down as multiple bundles. And you want to see here something really cool? When I first did that, they sent me Fire bundle that wasn't up to standard. And the agent saw it and did extra work and it fixed it and sent it into the system. Like, how amazing is that? Because you know the trick vendors do that all the time. They're like, oh, all we got to do is change our output once a month and we'll break that portal, right? Not this way, not in here, because the agent will just it will literally heal itself. This Tula is connected to Claude Code 4.7. Like, I do all my development in Cursor because it's serious pro dev, but Tula could pretty much build herself, like with, like, you know, I mean, that's, you guys know Claude Code. I'm not, you know, that's Tula has that built into her. So anyway, I got 937 of those records, you know, just to show, again, no smoke and mirrors here. And then we do this, and we got, you know, this. We go this one, I think it has 600, yeah.
Sorry, that counter is your number of Fire resources?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, yep. Every one of those is 1 Fire resource. And that was another architectural decision I made right from the beginning, as I built everything on top of Fire. I was like, you know what, I'm going to store data, even if it's my own health data. And then the more I built it out, I was like, why wouldn't I just build my own EHR? Because I did that before. Before Epic got really big, it was about 20 years ago, Dartmouth hired me as a head consultant, Microsoft consultant, because they built their own health record in .NET. So I've been through it all. I remember back then trying to, you know, we had to block the clipboard and, you know, all the ancillary systems and all that. So, I mean, again, I've been doing this for 30 years. It's not a far stretch with Cursor and a couple of agents, an army of coding agents. I actually honestly think I could do it in less than a month. I've already got a head start. I mean, I'm not necessarily in production, but, you know. So anyway, we got our data, and that's it. So I'm going to say no redaction, and we'll send the 2 records to AI, and that's it. It's over. You know, now HIPAA's out of the picture, right? The patient initiated a request. I got my data. Nothing more to say. That world is over. Okay. So then we close.
Explain the HIPAA part, so you get the records and so HIPAA, because it's locally on your computer.
It's not HIPAA. It's actually the Cures Act. And so the Cures Act was a recent piece of legislation that a lot of people aren't aware of yet. But essentially what it says is that you can't block access to a patient's data. And so written in that law, what it says is that the patient can choose whatever tool they want to transmit that data from the portal to the tool. And then once it's in this is the part, once it's in that tool, all HIPAA ends. That's written into the law. It's separate from the HIPAA law. HIPAA is the other one that everybody is, you know, don't even be started on HIPAA. But no, this is a different law for the patients. That's why finally a patient revolution is available, because
now the patient has a control.
Yeah, in theory, let's see if it holds up. I don't think they'll be able to block it. Well, because one good thing we have in our favor right now, like it or not, the administration right now is not doing any regulations. I've got a green light for at least 2 years.
If you extricate your own data from the HIPAA
Of
control
course,
entity, it's now yours.
Yes.
If you want to post it on the internet or give it to your neighbor, that's
It's a
your problem.
no-brainer, of course. Yeah, it's a no-brainer. And as a matter of fact, I was talking to a very person, you know, she's down in DC, she's a lawyer and does all this stuff. And essentially she was saying the same thing. And here's the other thing. So what I've been telling people, if it makes you feel better, frame it this way. What I'm really doing is protecting my health data from ransomware, right? Because don't sit here and tell me that the hospitals.
Well, actually, they still have it.
It's even worse, because you know what the hospital will do with my data? They'll de-identify it, and then they'll put it into machine learning models, and then they'll weaponize it against me with prior auth. They'll literally take my own data, de-identify it, and train machine learning models and weaponize it against me. I'll say it a second time with prior auth. So how can you tell me that my data is more secure? It might be enterprise secure, Epic, right, and that healthcare system, but patient sovereignty and patient security, I would argue, is a different thing. And what's more important to me is that you don't use my data to weaponize it against me and decide whether I should get treated for care during a prior auth process, right? So there's lots of different angles here. I'll talk about security all day long in enterprise hospitals if they want, but I would just submit from a patient point of view, this is more secure than Epic. As a matter of fact, they're ransomware targets. They are literally at the top of the list right now. I'm sort of not joking. Why wouldn't I do this? So I can have guaranteed continuity of care. Right? That's another way that we're starting to look at this. It's guaranteed continuity of care. And then it gets interesting for hospitals, right? So what we're working on now is the governance plane so hospitals can run these if they want to.
No, it's interesting. When I got a few years ago, I got my blood tested.
Yeah.
And in my portal, it said, you're all good. No recommendations, whatever. I was like, I want to see the numbers.
Yeah.
No. Like, what do you mean, no? It's like, we can't send them to you, not allowed. Well, I want them. It's my blood test. It's like, well,
it's the most insane.
I had to drive to Dartmouth, Mass, to Hawthorne, and go and literally pick it up, like a printout.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there's a whole bunch of things that were not necessarily perfect.
Yeah.
But they just didn't trigger any medications.
Yeah.
So that's all they care about. Right? It's like, ever since that happened, I was like, just show me I'll interpret. You know?
So it's everybody agree this is pretty amazing, right? Like this, I predict this will actually finally shift the landscape, towards the patient. So for the people just coming in, we're going over OpenClaw as a personal, Tula is an OpenClaw agent that we customize for specific healthcare, enterprise healthcare. And what I just demoed was getting my patient records. And it goes through a web app and it can pull from any Epic portal. And so I did this last week and published it. I was the first person to connect an AI agent, especially OpenClaw, to Epic and pull patient data. Yeah. And so it was a pretty big deal. And then it was just good timing. It was right before Memorial Day, and I published a beach reading list, and it was basically 5 great articles of how I got to where I am.
Were you doing this with your own credentials?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And so you missed that discussion earlier, but there's a couple of things that make this possible today. The first is there's a law called the Cures Act. And long story short, the Cures Act says that I, as a patient, can pick a tool of my choice to get my health data. And once I pull that health data into my tool, HIPAA no longer applies. It's on the patient side. So, so that premise opened the door for this. The second piece of work was from Josh Mandel. I just want to make sure I'm always crediting because he's just such an amazing person and researcher. And he wrote the first health skills. And so what we did is
You guys are welcome to grab pizza.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. You're the best. Thanks. So he wrote this, and then what we did is we ported it to OpenClaw. We kept an MIT license out of respect for him. So this is all free. You can go download this today and start using it in the Tula repo. And what we've done is we ported it to OpenClaw, and then we actually have a commercial side where we can do it like hospital scale. It's basically almost like a gateway, if you will.
So what with as far as this system is concerned, basically the patients are the one who need to buy this system.
Or it's free, right? Yeah. This will always be free. This will always be free. My premise is that what we're doing is we're building. The reason why that's so important. So what we're doing, and this gets to the session title now. How do you build verifiable agents, right? And so one of the very first things that you have to do is you have to make sure that your agent, it doesn't matter if it's OpenClaw or any agent, you have to make sure that it's sending out data about the whole process, right? You need to have complete observability, right? And all this stuff. And so that's important. Now for us, what's really nice, because again, I spent my whole life as a Microsoft engineer focused on healthcare, so it was a no-brainer. I was like, I want to test this. I just spin up a Linux box in Azure. And then I did this and this. But by the time I was done, I had a bulletproof system, Here's one more cool thing. One of the primary ways that you can get data in and out of Tula, how many people have heard of TripIt or used TripIt? Cool app, right? You just send it your trip data. So we set up an email router for Tula. So I can literally, even if I get logged from a portal, I can take photos of my charts in Epic and email them to Tula. What's that?
It's just the name of his agent.
It's the name of the open source. It's an open source OpenClaw agent. Yeah, named after my mother. Yeah. Focus 100% on the patient. Yeah. Cool. So then, yeah. So okay. So we saw the medical skill. I could go through and show you some other things, or even just scroll up, maybe from a conversation I had yesterday. But I told it. I said this was another demo I did yesterday. So keep in mind, this has my genetic data from 23andMe. It has all my Garmin data for 6 years. It has my Epic portal data from 5 different portals. It has probably some other stuff I'm forgetting about as well.
Is there like an MPC server for Garmin data, or do you go, like, how do you get that in there?
I can email it. I can email it. That's what's so beautiful. And Tula's smart. And the best thing about that is I can lock the email at the transport level to only take email from me, just like TripIt, right? It'll only take email because it knows your email. So I can get away from like 95% of injection packs just with that one move, because you will not be able to get in here. We have it very well published. We're not saying 100%, but we get really close. People could still, technically, they could forward an email, et cetera. No. To me, right? They could forward it to me, and then I can forward it to Tula. It'd have to be a double hop, right?
Now is the new development of like Anthropic Health and what else? There's like
Microsoft Copilot Health, Amazon Health, Anthropic Health, OpenAI Health.
Exactly.
So, but they're enabling the enterprises. They don't care.
No, they're consumer apps right now. They're going after their consumer market.
So I assumed that you would be able to do those things in a larger scale, like for other patients but yourself with. If these technologies exist, is that like?
Yeah, so our premise is that, getting back to the open thing. So the reason why it's important to be open is because it needs to be verifiable, right? Everything that the agent does needs to be accounted for. And so we do that through what these, it's called Waza evaluations, WAZA. This is something that Microsoft just released last week, and they haven't even released it publicly yet. It's I think they're announcing it next week at Build, but essentially we use those agent evaluations to help us with the issues you're talking about. It's called, I'll show you the repo right here. It's called Waza, W-A-Z-A. Actually, you can just Google it. I had to open another screen, but let me just keep going with this demo because this gets really cool. So this is here, so it has all my data. So I said, Tula, this was just yesterday or the day before, 3/31. Tell me something interesting about my genetic reports. And then, it went through a bunch of, oh wait, that's the wrong one, hold on. That's the wrong one, let me show you. It was just a little bit higher. This is the interesting one. I said, Tula, first talk to me about my blood pressure. And this was fascinating. It plotted my blood pressure for 6 years. This is all real data. But this is the really cool part. When I came down here, it noticed that right here, oh no, that's the iron one. With the thing, it noticed that my Withings ones from home, that it was always 10 points different from the one I did at the hospital. I never picked up on it. I was getting frustrated because I would always go to the doctor and he'd tell me my blood pressure is perfect. And I'd go home and not perfect. He'd say it's a little high. And I'd go home and it was 10 points higher. So I've been worried about this for a year. So this thing, Tula, I don't know if I'm on the right screen. It's hard to find right now. But basically it said, hey, what you need to do is you need to take a picture of that blood pressure cuff. And it gave me a whole schedule. It said you need to do 3 meetings this week at these dates and times. And what I want you to do is take a picture of that blood pressure cuff. That is like 100% for real. I'm not making one bit of that up. And this was actually live demo. It's on YouTube. That's why this is up here, because I demoed it. I was actually talking about it. But it gets better. So then as my final demo, I said, tell me something about my health here it is. Tell me one thing I might not know about my health that would make a big difference in the way I feel. So it went through and it chugged for about 30 seconds, looked at every single FHIR resource. I could see it thinking, and it came back and it said, found it. Almost no one would flag it, but I will. You're iron deficient. and you almost certainly don't feel it as iron deficiency. And then it's giving me the rest of the data. And to be honest with you, I haven't checked it yet, but of course I will, as soon as I get a minute this week. And so I just thought that was fascinating. Like, those are two real world examples where when I had my patient develop, right? And notice I'm not talking about the doctors. I don't care about that, right? It's my health. I just want to be able to have an intelligent conversation with my doctor. And by the way, my doctor actually sort of appreciates this. He already knows, he knows I'm coming in. I'm the super informed patient, right? There's going to be a lot of those coming up now. So I guess I'll pause for questions, and then I can talk.
I want to know why sleep apnea makes your hemoglobin too high.
Well, I know that was the other thing. It really thinks I have sleep apnea, so I got to follow up on that too. Tula keeps telling me, it's like, dude, you need to get checked for sleep apnea. You need to get checked.
I have this app called My Wife that checks me for sleep apnea.
Okay.
And she's pretty accurate.
Yeah.
But and that's very curious that would drive your. I never would have thought of that.
Yeah, no, it's some of the stuff that I've been getting at it. Again, I've been doing this for a long time, so I know, where the weak spots are, when something doesn't work and when it does. And again, it's not like, I'm not proposing it's like any sort of special magic. When I say magic, a certain magic happens, meaning there's multiple decades of computer science coming together here, right? That's the magic. And the magic is when you take that multiple decades of computer science and you match it with all of my health data that's important to me, it becomes...
that all that longitudinal data on yourself has been in all these systems.
Yeah. Let's do this too. Now I'll show you the next one, which is pretty cool. So I forgot to spin this up. So we'll just do this live. Okay, so let's go here. Okay, so now this is the repo one. Let's say launch my ARIA dev server, please. I'll let it think for a minute because I really want to show this. But I guess while I'm waiting, I can show you
your own data. Like, this would be great for my wife who's managing both her parents, and she had to go to the doctor today, and she's like, I don't know why he's going to the doctor. Like, I didn't even make that appointment. What's going on?
I'm just going to show you the. Yeah.
I presume this is rhetorical.
No, one of my friends one of the things that kept me going on this about 4 or 5 months ago is there's a Microsoft engineer he's a key contributor, and his wife has breast cancer. So he was all of a sudden put in the position of being a caregiver. And, as you know, it's bad enough managing your own health, but, imagine now you have to manage it for, somebody that's close to you. And so he's actually come on board and he's focused on it more from like a caregiver, medical adherence type thing in the context of cancer. And just while we're waiting, because it might take a minute to pull that.
That's huge, by the way, because you are very engaged in your own health. But a lot of people are more concerned about part of their loved one's health than their own. No, I'm good.
Yeah.
But no, you all need to get tested.
Yeah.
I work a lot in colorectal cancer screening. There's a lot of people who make sure that the entire family is tested for colorectal cancer.
Good for them.
But they don't screen.
But then they won't do it themselves.
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
So having that ability to empower caregivers is huge, and I think you got the skills.
Thank you.
Well, especially when my mother literally had colorectal cancer.
Yeah.
But my wife didn't get tested. But she was focused on it.
Exactly. Yeah.
This will pull it up.
Yeah, exactly.
It will pull up in a minute, but for right now, I'm just going to show you a screenshot so we don't have to wait. But essentially what I did again is I built my own, my chart, if you will. Hold on, where'd it go? And so here's what it looks like. I apologize that this probably is not the best view, but you can see I literally modeled it after and when it loads up, I'll drop down these menus. But I literally modeled it after the Epic portal. Like for people that are familiar with Epic portal, you can almost see that it was inspired by it. And then, but notice what's key from a patient perspective. My 5 portals and their data, that's up here, but that's just one small piece of my life, right? Again, I'm gonna go to the doctor once a year, get some labs. But meanwhile, you guys know the story, we got data all around us now, right? And so I got my longitudinal feeds. I'll show you, give you examples of these, but these are the devices, etc. And a lot of devices fall under home devices. We don't call them integrated devices because there are home devices. We're the patient. This is for me. This is for us, right? And then what we have is we have intelligent nutrition. So I have mine connected to my Fitness Pal. So I use my Fitness Pal for diet and all that, right? And then the other thing that was important, this is huge, the intelligent SDOH. So what we've been finding is that a lot of social determinants of health data is actually in your chats. And so we can, and the other thing we do is we ask people for the zip code for air quality, but that also does an unlock on a lot of other data, right? So, and again, I mean, this is one patient, one thing. So when I say it's really me, right? But if other people start using this, we can deploy it. And then finally, intelligent travel, right? Like I travel a lot, I speak at conferences, you know, I'll probably be in 4 different countries before the end of the year at least. And this is a slow year for me, you know? And so, so for me, my travel data is important. And let me show you the other categories because hopefully this thing is running now. Does anybody have any questions though while I'm pulling this up?
Well, you just mentioned something interesting in your chats. So you've been showing us some example about the Wittings that's always 10 plus, and it recommended that you do a certain testing schedule, iron efficiency. That information is very important. Do you add it as a buyer resource or only through the EHR?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that's how after I show you this, I'm going to show you one other demo, which is the new skill that we released yesterday, and it's called Prep for My Visit.
Yeah.
And now what I've done is I've basically taken something very, I was inspired by the patient summary in Epic.
Yeah.
So now I have the perfect patient summary that I can prep to bring to my doctor, and I've got a doctor view of it, and I've got a patient view.
Who wrote the patient summary?
I did. And it's public, yes. And you can go check it if you want. And it meets the international standard, what is it, IDP or whatever it's called? Because I've been doing this for 30 years. So hospitals are.
You didn't use a model to go through your chart? You have a chart in Epic?
I have on my chart, I have.
You have 5, right?
I have at least 5, yeah. Maybe more, really, if I went back far enough, you know. But 5.
One of the applications in healthcare is to point one of the LLMs at the medical record and have that summarized.
Yeah, no, I think everybody's doing that today, right? I think Epic is
It's
doing
pretty
that,
common
Microsoft
today.
is doing that, you know, especially when you
But
look
you
at
wrote it
this-
yourself?
Yeah, and again, but I'm coming, be clear, I'm coming at this from a different angle. I'm coming at this from the patient angle. Like this is only my data in here. And so, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I'm protected. There's this thing called the Cures Act. A lot of people don't know about it, but it was just passed recently. And I'm allowed to take the tool of my choice and pull the data that I want, right? And we can have a long conversation about security in healthcare. Trust me, I'll talk about it for hours with you. And at the end, I will probably submit, as a matter of fact, I will factually submit that this is more secure for the patient than the Epic system. If for any other reason, every single Epic system that's deployed around the world from Singapore to Boston is a target for ransomware. So if you want to give me any other reason, I would say, okay, I'm just protecting my data from ransomware so that no matter what, I have continuity of care.
They're not going to target you individually for ransomware.
Exactly.
They'll target
Of
an
course,
Epic
that's my
system.
point.
But
Exactly. That's why I can confidently say it, right? Because this is one healthcare record. Who the heck is going to ransomware that? You know what I mean?
But of course, like, the reason they're not giving the access is not really.
What's that?
It's an excuse.
It's an excuse.
No, of course it is. Yeah, we all know that. But I think we finally have like a really good answer where it's so obvious now. You know what I mean? Like you would have to be really insincere at this point to say, no, you shouldn't have that data, Paul, right? I mean, but again, I've seen crazy things in my life. It wouldn't surprise me. But I tell people this though, the good thing, whether you like it or not, the current administration is very anti-regulation. So I think we actually have some runway to really get some of this patient stuff going, but we got to do it now. We got to move fast. And I think it's really important to stick to the spirit of the patient. What I mean by that is I just did a post today that the one thing you will never find in here, and this is, by the way, why I don't have to be CMS approved. You will never find payment data, billing data, coding data, none of it. It will never, ever be in here. And what that allows me to do is I can even work with CMS now and bypass all the technical stuff, because candidly, a lot of that is there because they do their payments through it for the federal government, through Medicaid and stuff. So to be a CMS approved app, believe it or not, they have a little clause that says you have to use our payment system, at CMS. So anyway, let's get the cool stuff though. So here's the dashboard in real life. So remember, this is an older version, but that's okay. I wish I had a newer version. Okay, that's okay though. So anyway, lab results, medications, right? So just so you know, I've developed this. I have some of it hooked up to my data, but this part hasn't been deployed yet. This is brand new in 3 or 4 days, but it's completely ready to go. The OpenClaw already has all the data it needs to do. I just have to find time to, point an agent at this, saying, go connect this, and then we'll deploy it to Tula.
Say, Paul, nice meeting you.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, follow up. Thanks.
To talk more about
that would be amazing. Thank you.
Have a good night.
Oh yeah, we're supposed to use that door. Sorry, it's broken. That's all right. It's broken. Yeah. So here's this is all the stuff that comes from the patient portals. So here's longitudinal feeds, genomic reports. I've got a skill for de-identification. We're not using it a lot yet, but I do see scenarios where maybe I do want to export some of my data and de-identify it, right? And so of course I want to allow for that. And then this is cool. This is where we get into the SDOH stuff. So again, you put in your zip code, you get an unlock here. And then if we go down to AI chats, this is super cool too. Basically, we're starting to surface stuff up through, chats and using that as well. Yeah, so for right now, the stuff for medical imaging is the stuff that I actually get from my, I had a chest x-ray done not too long ago, so I have the chest x-ray. And full disclosure, right now, we're not actually analyzing the image itself. What we're doing is we're taking the reported data. But that said, it's architected to do images as well. This is running in Azure, so I can connect to the Microsoft Healthcare models and use the same imaging models that the enterprise hospitals are using.
Is it your data? If you want, you can open it and we'll...
No, this stuff on this screen is not my data. No, sorry. I mean, honestly, I wouldn't care anyway. I've been talking about my healthcare data so much, and I think people appreciate it. Like, I'm trying to break the mold. Like, we've been told for so long that we can't even talk about our healthcare data, right? Like, somebody's going to fire us, or, they're just going to take our money or something, right? Or, like, and it's like the boogeyman, like, woo, don't do that, And I'm like, no, let's settle down.
So how do you believe, like, you have a lot of power in this?
Yeah.
What do you think there's anything we as a society, can do to help bring these efforts forward?
I think the biggest thing is to stay informed, just like with most things, like just stay informed. Like, and the other thing I would say is that when you start looking into this, there's been an entire industry of patient advocacy and the hospitals will call it, they've got patient engagement as well. And those people, they've had their hooks into the system for a long time. And a lot of these people, they're on the TEFCA system to pay, right? So one word of caution I would give you is be careful, just double check that stuff, right? Just because somebody says they're doing health equity or patient, et cetera, just double check it. What I would submit is what we're doing here is fundamentally different. Like, we're opening up a brand new door where myself as the patient, and you see it, get my data, complete data sovereignty, all my data stays with me on one machine. I could see a time when in the very near future, this would be small enough to be on a thumb drive if you wanted it to be. Yeah. I could also see if you zoom out 20 years into the future, maybe 10 years, that you would be assigned one of these at birth. And it would track every single thing from birth for your entire life, right? Yeah, that's where I would go with it. That's where I am going to go with it.
On your computer, like
now it's saying. Right now it's a Ubuntu Linux box in Azure, $30 a month. Yeah, because I'm using API models. A lot of people want to run local models with OpenClaw, but I don't think it's the way to go with healthcare and your own personal health data. I think you want to use the very best models possible. So we use we host models in Azure. And again, I acknowledge I do this for a living, so it's easy for me to do that, right? But I'm just telling you what works for me. So because we use the models in Azure, they're in our enterprise tenant, the data is not being trained on, it's not being used, right? So that's our current setup. And I personally would rather have the very best models in my healthcare data, you know?
So
So,
I'd be curious to see, like, I mean, this is the first iteration of you fetching the data from
Yeah.
various centers. Like, if you do, like, go back, like, 6 months from now,
yeah.
and you fetch the data, like, what does it, like, does it look the same, or is there any?
Well, no, it's different. Here's the thing, because it does have a lot of my data. Because before I started doing the email router and Telegram, I was just uploading it through Telegram. So I uploaded all my Epic Labs, my Genova, everything, you know. So it does have that. And so here's a real world situation. I was just part of the demo I was doing 3 days ago. It saw, I think you heard me say this. It saw the Withings cup data. So first it plotted 6 years of my Withings data, because I've had that cup about 6 years. And it said, Paul, this doesn't look good because your blood pressure's growing up, but it's going up slowly over time, and that's dangerous. So you want to, gave me that. And then, but then it was the Withings cup that blew my mind, because it was smart enough to know, wait, this is his home data, the 6 years trending data. And now we're looking at the doctor's reports over the last 4 years. Why is there a 10-point difference consistently? Right, and that's when it pinged me and it said, Paul, you need to check the way you're putting that blood pressure cuff on your arm. So that's would be a good example of like how you would glean more from over time.
So in your heart of hearts, do you think it was an honest calibration mistake at Withings, or is Withings trying to get you to the doctor?
I don't think either one of those things. I think Withings is a very reputable company. They would probably never risk their reputation doing something like that. You know, they're FDA approved. Withings is FDA approved. They have devices all over the world in hospitals. So I don't think there's any bad intention there. I have far more, honestly, I have far more trust in Withings than I do my doctor's office.
Are you sitting up, sitting down, what's the time of day?
Oh, no, I gotta figure that
You're
out.
more-
No, I gotta figure that out. Maybe different arm.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you can have a 10-point difference just in a different arm. But I had been paying attention to that. Like the last couple times I went, I made sure that they were using the same arm. So I started picking up on it. You know,
Yeah.
Tula drove it home, right? And gave me the data on analysis. Yeah.
And you mentioned that you currently have the data on your own box.
Yeah.
I, as a patient, would trust you more with the data than my hospital.
Yeah.
And probably my mom would want to give me access to her data. So I think it's a small hop for you to host my data.
Oh, of course, yeah. We don't have that plan now, but then it's open source. Yeah, actually, I've been trying to say this a few times and I lost my train of thought. The reason why the open core, open source is so important is because agents need to be verifiable.
Yeah.
And so what we do is we run the evaluations at agent level, and it's all open source. We say it's all open source, open core, and will always be.
Yeah.
How many contributors do you have today?
What's that?
How many contributors to the open source project?
2. So we literally launched 3 months ago. It's myself and a senior Microsoft engineer. Long story short, he's a caregiver. His wife has cancer. It's just not good. I don't want to go into the details, but he's a contributor. We've got a 3rd contributor that's coming on board soon. And a lot of this has just happened recently. Like I've been building this for a while, but when I connected all the dots with OpenClaw and pulling from the Epic portal, like it really took off in the last 10 days. So.
Yeah, because the number of contributors in the community really can exponentially increase.
Yeah, this is what I was talking about.
But we are welcoming contributors. Don't get me wrong. Like I would welcome any. I mean, realistically, we want to be a little bit careful, right? But I mean, even that said, if the one I'm already talking to, he's more like an intern for us, you know. But it's a perfect opportunity for him, in my opinion, you know. So we're getting him involved earlier. So don't get me wrong, we're not like super overly protective or anything, you know. We'll do diligence and make sure that we're protecting the repo and all that. But for my perspective, the more the merrier, right? For multiple reasons. Because if I do nothing else, and if this goes nowhere else, I can feel like, okay, this was one of those few times in my career where maybe I nudged the system a little bit. You know, there's been a couple other times in my life where I've been fortunate enough to do that, you know, where I was in a position where I could build something that really helped people. And it doesn't happen a lot, you know, our whole career isn't filled with that stuff, right? But it does happen sometimes. And I firmly believe that even if I were to stop today and walk away from this, that I feel like I nudged the system a little bit. I definitely feel like there's like a new conversation around patient agency. These are terms people weren't even using before. I started to coin some of these terms in the last 6 months even, right? What is patient agency? What does that mean, etc. So for me, that's good enough, you know? And at the end of the day, I'm gonna have this for me forever. Like, of course I am, you know, I just turned 55. Like, I'm at the point in my life where I gotta really start paying attention to healthcare stuff, you know, all this stuff. That's actually why I started it. And I think that's part of the reason it's been successful is it's, you know, a lot of times when you truly do build something for yourself, to meet a need for yourself, when you're not doing it for business reasons or selfish reasons, oftentimes, you know, that's where some of the magic can happen, right? So, yeah.
There's a good product market fit.
Yeah, apparently, yeah. And so let me just close. I'll show you just one more thing that's interesting. And so this is in the repo as well.
Can I share a thought?
Yeah, please.
It could be cool because like now I asked my OpenClaw to guide me on how to, like I put the YouTube video that you published 3 days ago, and I asked my OpenClaw to teach me how to do this.
Oh, nice.
And then like, could be interesting if every person had this, like the reality for all of us would change.
I agree.
You see what I'm saying? So maybe like it could be interesting to start this as like, like if we could encourage people instead of like joining this specific one,
Yeah.
if we could encourage people like post about it on LinkedIn or social media, other like encourage people to build it on their own.
Yeah.
And I just want to say that in other countries, regulation, for example, doesn't let any like commercial company withhold data from here also.
Yeah,
allegedly,
nice. Yeah.
but like there's no enforcement of that.
Yeah.
But in other like regulation should have done some of these things naturally.
Yeah.
But since it doesn't, then maybe I feel like I want to tell more people about this.
No, you should. And again, that's why I was just cautioning you, because I think it's a new conversation though. Because there were already a lot of people talking about patient engagement and this and that. But I feel like this is a fundamentally different conversation. That's why I would say, yeah, we absolutely need to talk about it. But let's not let it fall into this category of patient engagement, helping the patient fight the hospital. That's not what this is about.
No,
this is about me having my data sovereignty, and not just the hospital data. Again, honestly, I will say it again. At this point in my life, it's probably the least important data, right? Your hospital data doesn't get important to you as long as you're healthy until you're at least my age, right? I mean, I went my whole life, I never looked at a chart. I don't know about you guys, I never looked at a chart.
So, what do you want to say?
I was going to say the whole construct around regulation is exactly what you mentioned earlier, saying that it's kind of like a boogeyman, and it's not really true because in transparency, I was one of the guys who wrote the Cures Act.
Oh, wow! Oh, you're a hero. Nice.
I'm not the chief people officer and head of the act for the state of Massachusetts.
Wow, that's so cool.
And this is how I address it in the state. There's an industry called real world evidence. What it essentially is that every one of our healthcare data is being licensed anonymously. It's not anonymized, it's anonymized. Pharma companies run so IQVIA, Optum, IBM Truven, Dairy, DataBank, Combo Health, I'm on the board of 2 of the companies that are in the imaging space. My previous venture that I exited was in the real world evidence space, where I aggregated imaging data, reports included, images included, from 3,500 hospitals, 150 million patients, and sold it to a private equity company. The private equity company essentially bundled data from all the other data licensing companies, IQVIA, Optum included, and sold it to GE 90 days ago for $2.8 billion. So all our data is already available. It's just that there are special interest groups, like Judy Faulkner currently controls about 76% of the United States health records. And she's also one of the third largest contributor to both parties.
To both parties.
Right. So what ends up happening is that Judy Faulkner single-handedly in her office would say, that, you know what, I'm not going to write you the $20 million check list and let me continue to control it. So the regulation is kind of passed under the table. And her lobbies, special interest groups, say that, you know what, we'll pass all the information to United Health, which is essentially Optum, or like QVIA, which can sub-license holds, EHR data, lab data, genetic data, et cetera, to where the highest bid is.
Yeah.
Now, none of the T's and C's are essentially interpretable by anyone of us. Like, I can verify you. But you go to Children's Hospital and they take your cord blood, and the cord blood essentially is sold to Takeda, or to Moderna or Vertex. Nobody knows about that. But it's actively being done right now. And the United States is the only country where health records can be purchased at a credit card purchase price. Like, if you spend $5,000, $6,000, $10,000 here, you're gonna get access to that Medicare Medicaid data. Like, if you go to a company called DataBank, it's actually founded by my company, my friend Travis May. So Travis and I we've known each other since undergrad at Harvard. So Travis founded DataBank, and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna aggregate every vendor's data and tokenize it. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? And he did. Every single health licensing company in the United States, Canada, and Mexico is tokenized from DataBank. By the way, Travis is 35. Okay, this is not somebody who's been in the industry. But his claim to fame was like, you know what? I'm going to give commercialization power to each one of these hospital systems where they can monetize their data afterward. Not a single penny went to the patient.
Yeah.
And there was no regulation to indicate that, hey, the patient should get 8% of the profits when your data is being licensed. John Lemke is trying to do that.
Nice.
But they're like essentially beating the shit out of him, saying, no, thou shalt not.
I can't tell you how much you're making right now, because I've been talking about a lot of this. Some of the details I just learned, about Waza, but I've been in the industry 30 years, so I've been watching it for a long time. Here's one that really bothers me, that, to your point about the data, not only do they de-anomalize it and use it for commercial reasons, they also use it to train machine learning models that then are weaponized against me with prior auth, right? And so they're literally taking my own data and weaponizing it and firing back at me and saying, no, now you're not going to get that thing or whatever it is, right? So that's very personal to me.
We passed a genome law to avoid that, which is the Genetic Non-Discrimination Act, because they were doing exactly that.
Yeah.
Is that they were taking all these biomarkers specifically from CYP2C19 and cytochrome-50 and saying like, oh yeah, you're predisposed to like bleed out if you take clopidogrel, so I can't prescribe you that. Or if you want clopidogrel, then you have to pay 100% full price, which is $600 a strip in this country. So if you go to Canada, it's like $8.
So I just wanted to say something.
So that's where I said that the regulation is based on the highest bidder, which is the ultra capitalist view of the world. But that is the reality in this country.
I want to say, you said that the least important part is sometimes the patient record. So at my company, I'm the CEO of Droxy. So we help doctors, for example, when you get your lab works back, and then the doctor reviews them, then sometimes, I don't know, maybe 4 years ago, so while the doctor reviews them, maybe 4 years ago, that patient had cancer, and now that abnormal lab result, I see it every day happening. Now that little bit abnormal lab result that just came back, and the doctor would be like, click, click, click. Sometimes if they say it with the weird note from 4 years ago, oh, now it makes sense, their cancer is back. And that's how we can actually save a lot of patients. So what I'm saying is, sometimes when things like, and I see it every day in my work, that data can get very, very significant to make those connections.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah.
So
it's very personal to me. I lost my mother to brain cancer, and she didn't have to. She absolutely would have eventually died, but she could have died with a lot more dignity than she did. And it was because she didn't have access to this type of information. So for me, it's deeply personal. It's not just my personal health, but I feel like I was traumatized by the system in that way. And now here I am trying to deal with that hereditary stuff, and I just wasn't able to get what I needed from the healthcare system, frankly, not to take anything away, but just to be clear too, like a lot of the problems I talk about in some people, it really isn't the first tier, like the PCP level. I do want to be clear about that. Like once you're diagnosed with something and the specialists kick in and all that, that's a different path, right? And those, most of those people that I've met, they're just so passionate about the work that they're doing, etc. But there's a gate below them, right? And that's where all the pain points are, if you will. So anyway, yeah, so we're super excited. This went viral 10 days ago. We've already had people from DC contacting us, from CMS, HHS, a hospital in Dubai, a hospital in Massachusetts, New York. And, and so now we're continuing to build out the governance plane. So we're super excited about that. Looking for people to help us with pilots, to work on pilots. But our premise is we keep this open core and open source so that it's verifiable. And then at the commercial level for hospitals and governments, we can provide the governance level that can abstract the pedigree and the observability from the agent and bring it up to the governance plane. So that's where we're coming at. And that's why we feel it's so important to keep this always open source. It's just one more thing. Speaking of OpenClaw, that's the model I love. Like, I love how OpenAI partnered, acquired, whatever they did with OpenClaw, but they said, we're going to leave OpenClaw as an open foundation. And I'm not OpenClaw, I'm not talking OpenAI, but they said, we're going to leave it open. And then they started running with it. And I'll tell you something, I know for a fact Microsoft is running with it right now in the enterprise. And they've got a governance plane, and that's why I feel very comfortable about our approach in the enterprise, helping hospitals and governments. And that's why there's 100 people in the room next door at the OpenClaw meetup at Microsoft. And Ashish is amazing, the person that's giving the talk. He's a friend of mine. He's at AWS now. He was at Microsoft. And long story short, he was a victim of the layoffs. He jumped over to AWS, and now he's so hooked on OpenClaw, he's back here doing demos at Microsoft. And there's another story. There's a guy at Microsoft, Omar Shameen, I think you pronounce his name, but he actually led the Microsoft 365X thing for years, and then he retired. He's sort of young though, And then, but anyway, he finished, and then he started doing OpenClaw stuff at home and automated his whole house and his family and all that. And so Microsoft tapped him on the shoulder, and they're like, hey, why don't you come back? And now he's running the OpenClaw team at Microsoft. So that's why it's very relevant. So I know that Microsoft is invested in making sure that this can be governed and secure, the underlying OpenClaw stuff. And so we're also making a bet on that.
Do you see any potential abuse of kind of democratizing these data records in the hands of patients who have ulterior motives around payments, schedule for drugs, narcotics, etc.? Because is there an opportunity for patients who think to manipulate their active med list, essentially show up at CVS and say, hey, I know you're going to have the order ID and the accession number from the order entry system.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on that?
I didn't until you brought it up, but I think it's a really brilliant. But what I will, here's how I would reply to it though, is I think there are a lot of scenarios like that, but even the most obvious one, like make sure my PHI doesn't leave my own machine. And that's why we're so invested in the Waza evaluations that Microsoft just came out with. So they haven't been announced publicly yet. I think they're announcing them next week at Build. There's sort of like the same type of evals that you do at the LLM level, but what's fundamentally different here is it's doing it at the agent level. So you can actually check at, yes, super cool. And what's nice is we got a little bit of an early ping, so we've been building it from the ground up based with Waza evaluations. So you can run full evaluations on every one of our skills. It's in the repo today. You could do it yourself. You could clone this repo and you could do a Waza skill check and see our evaluations on that agent. That's a very complex issue that you just brought up. I do think there's some technology things that we can do to help that. But at the end of the day, that's a really complex scenario, right? Stopping people from doing bad things with these tools. So I don't want to pretend like I could come out with 100% answer now. And you're right. I think I'd love to work with you on solving it. Brilliant.
That's obviously a huge problem.
Of course. Yeah, of course.
So then it'd be like, here it's like basically mainly reading.
Yeah.
And so this interface wouldn't you cannot prescribe anything, right?
But they could learn to teach the system. I see the point. But actually, here's a thought though. Why wouldn't they? The same would be true of Claude in all fairness, right? Like they would be able to go in and, right? But it's great. I love these conversations. And that was one I hadn't thought of actually.
Well, I mean, my wife's a physician. Her panel size is 1,800 patients right now, which is insane.
Yeah.
But of the 1,800 patients, about 60 patients are going to be abused, and she has to essentially turn them out.
Wow.
I'm not a physician. My wife is.
Oh,
She's a Mass General. She's a primary care doctor.
Thank you so much.
Patients come and say, like, oh yeah, I don't feel good, and they collect a pain med from here, provider, one goes to CVS, one goes to Walgreens. Obviously, the databases have latency issues and provenance issues, so they get multiple, essentially refills from two pharmacies, and PBMs by the time we check, it's too late. So, this is not an edge case, this is if you talk to, the patient safety officer at Mass General or even maybe you're going to be, they can say, oh yeah, this is like double digit.
So that's a huge problem, but I don't see how this exacerbates that problem. It's a huge problem.
My thought was like, are patients able to manipulate their own records and that show that their active med list reflects something?
Not like this.
Oh, yeah,
Not like
yeah,
this.
I think yes already.
Yes, but not with this.
How would they already do that?
You can already manipulate your record. It's just
Oh, yeah,
easier.
yes.
Yeah, of course.
I think the easiest way to manipulate your record is like lying when you enter.
Social
the clinic.
engineering, yeah.
Yeah, so social proof.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're just like, you tell the nurse that you have something that you don't. Sure. That's it. It becomes a fact.
Well, I wish that was always the case. I just wrote an interesting article about this, because one of the interesting skills that we just wrote the other day was this, what is it? Oh, gosh, I forget which one it was, but we just had to deal with this. One quick story, because you guys will like it. This is a cute little anecdote. One of the things that got me keep going with OpenClaw and Tula is you saw how I was talking to the Telegram and all that, right? And before I started building my own skills, I was just testing my own data. Like I was more interested in getting the email router working so I could email my stuff to it and all that. And then one day, it's like I was talking to her on my couch, just watching TV, and something about labs, and I saw it start working in the background. It started building a PDF viewer or something so it could show me my labs. So just for grins, I said, Tula, wouldn't it be cool if we had a special PDF viewer that was specifically designed for healthcare data? And I'll be darned, I didn't even think about it. The next day, I opened up my dev box, and that's how MedRecord was born. That was my very first skill. It was MedPDF. And then the minute I saw that, I was like, wow. Now, every other skill since then, we treated like a pro dev effort. So now we do our dev in Cursor and other tools, and we have repos, and and there's but it started with this. And again, Tula does have Claude Code 4.7 baked in. So it's not that Tula could do it, but because it's healthcare and I've been trained this way for 30 years, I like to do the pro dev, make sure it's solid, make sure all my evals are spot on, and now we publish those. But the very first one was Tula.
Do you have a training video for B2C for like 5 minutes to consume of how you're using email router, how you're training? Do you have that video published anywhere?
We don't, but we just started publishing videos. But what we have done is we've been overly transparent in the repo. Everything from the security model to the evals. And so if you take your favorite AI and point it at that repo, you should be able to have a full conversation with it and confirm and ask everything that I just asked you tonight. Talk to it about the Waza evaluations. Ask it, is this enterprise ready? What is this skill? One of the things I'm proud of, I came up with this thing called the dual spec process, which basically what we do is we follow the open skill standard that Anthropic built, but at the same time, we make sure it passes Microsoft evaluations with Waza. And the skill that we published yesterday, Prep for My Visit, it's the first one where we actually give people instructions to take that skill and put it in the cloud if they want. They don't have to use Tula if they want. They can literally take that skill and put it in the cloud. I don't care. I want it to be open. And cool. But when we use it, we want the governance plane, and we want to be able to extract components.
It would be super cool, coming back to your question, how do we drive adoption, right? In my experience, when you talk to doctors, it's a little bit exaggerated, but not all that much. There are doctors like yours who are very supportive of this because they want you to show up prepared, engaged, informed. And then there are doctors like, no, I'm the doctor. You come in here like a blank sheet of paper. I'm going to tell you what to do. You're going to shut up and go home.
But those doctors won't be alone.
I agree. I've seen the
COVID.
same thing when EHRs were introduced many, many years ago.
And I hope they are. I don't want anybody to lose their job, but I'm just saying, I just
No
really
disagreement. Here's my point though.
Yeah.
If one of those doctors who like this
Yeah.
says to their patients, prep your visit,
Yeah.
Here's this hospital.
Yeah, oh yeah, prep my business.
I want you to use it before you come in.
Yeah.
Before you come in, I want you to suck up your charge from our Epic.
Yeah.
Use a prep your visit and show up, so that you don't have to. do
There's a
that.
reason why this, one of
I
our
don't
first
want
10
you to do it.
skills.
And if every primary care visit at Mayo uses
Yeah.
prep your visit, that's a good distribution.
Exactly, or everybody at the VA,
Yeah.
right? Like, yeah, and we're already talking.
I can give it to
CNS.
some of my
So
doctors.
so quick.
I'm sure some of my doctors would love this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so far the doctors are very, like, just like this gentleman, I'm sorry I don't know your name yet, but they're like, they'll tell you to your face, like, when are we gonna stop hiding behind regulations? It's so silly. You know, even the leaders of those hospitals, and I don't wanna say everybody, but most of the people I'm interacting with, you know, everybody knows that we're at a tipping point here, I think. And getting to your point, I expect that there will be 1,000 apps like this in 24 months. That's just what I'm expecting. And that's even more of a reason why it's important for us to do something different and keep this open and open core. And so for us, we'll just focus on the governance level for a business model, right? Like, we're gonna assume that there's gonna be a lot of other agents like this. Some are gonna be hooked through Tefka, some are gonna be cowboys on Claude using my skills, you know what I mean? Some of them will be using Tula, right? And I already accept that. I see that world unfolding, you know? And so I'm very confident in the next 12, 24 months, it will be more than 1,000 of these maybe. So yeah, that's my take anyway. Yeah. So why even fight the agent market? You know, publish it, open source everything.
Exactly.
Get it the best it can be. And
Free the data.
Yeah, then focus on the governance. We can help the government. We can help the state. We can help hospitals. All right, that's it. Thank you. Thank you. Seriously.
How'd you come up with the name Tula?
It's my mother. Yeah, my mother's name was Tula, and she was the one I lost to brain cancer, and so was an Amish. Yeah. So,
Alan's tranquility piece. My brother owns the largest chain of Pilates studios in Dubai and Abu Dhabi. It's called Tula.
Really? Oh, I'll be in Dubai again this fall. I'll have to look for it. That's awesome. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I
That's
just
amazing.
texted him your screenshot saying, "I'll be damned."
Yeah, we just talked to, there's a hospital, but actually I think they own a couple hospitals, I forget the names right now, but apparently they're on vacation there now, there's like, and so we're supposed to talk after vacation is over.
Yeah, I know the CIO or like the CEO of the Dubai Healthcare Authority.
Oh, wow.
Like he mentioned to you.
Yeah.
So, we were in conversations.
That's good.
They're quite informal. They're whatever.
Yeah.
So happy.
That's been my experience as well. I was there last fall as well. I actually did a presentation on operational efficiency with AI from Boston to
Was it
Dubai.
a medic clinic or?
No, it was actually the Microsoft office. We did like a one-day event, and I put together a healthcare track and a healthcare panel.
Oh, the office got bombed
The Microsoft office?
in Dubai.
What?
Yeah.
Wow, when that?
Yeah, we do what the Google and Microsoft, they drop drones around it. Check it out.
Wow. I was just there.
That's
That's so crazy. Wow, I had no idea. I don't know. How
Yeah,
did it
it's
escape me?
My brother lives right by Continental, which is right next to the Microsoft offices.
Yeah. Whew, crazy world. That's definitely not something I would have expected to hear. 6 months ago when I was there, right? Like if you would have told me, hey, in 6 months, it's going to be growing at that.
It's gonna be fun.
Especially because Dubai is so amazing today, you know?
I mean, they did it to minimize casualties in the middle of the night,
Mhm.
just to prove a point saying they can get you.
Wow, that's crazy. Well, so I'm assuming when this,
Well, Google and Microsoft, people are working through the night, right? Sorry, it's probably not.
I don't know what was in the office, but there were no casualties.
Yeah.
They were essentially saying that anybody who works for the American company, they're going to
Yeah, you're totally.
doesn't matter if you're German, Irish, Spaniards.
Yeah.
We're gonna get you. People are really pissed at us on board.
There's some.
yeah, a lot of the world. I think we're still okay in a lot of Asia.